This is the equipment guide for the Lumix G7 camera. Included with the G7 camera and pictured on the side here in the front pouch is the charger power brick, a USB-A to micro B cable, and a charger to put the batteries in. Remember to charge all the batteries before shooting so you don't run out of battery power when recording. In the main compartment of the bag is 2 batteries on the top that are used to power the camera. If you want to charge these, you can slide the little contacts in first, push it in, plug the cable into the charger, and then plug the charger into the wall outlet. There's a second battery you can switch to if one runs out during recording. And then inside the main compartment is the camera itself. The camera has a lens on it, and since it's the only lens with the camera, don't take the lens off in order to make sure that the sensor and optics inside stay clean and don't get any unnecessary dirt or fingerprint smudges on them. There's also a strap on the camera that should be used whenever you're walking around with it, just to reduce the chance of the camera dropping or otherwise getting damaged. Taking a look at the camera physically, on the front of the lens is a lens cap that keeps the front of the lens safe if you're not recording. Take it off when you're ready to roll. And then those 2 dials on the ring. The frontmost dial here controls the focus of the camera when you're in manual focus mode. And then this dial here controls the focal length, going from 14 millimeters all the way to 42, where 14 is wide and 42 is more telephoto. Moving to the top of the camera, there's a drive mode dial here that's used for photo mode primarily and won't be needed for video. This is the mode dial that changes exposure modes in photo mode and a few other scene modes. For video recording, you want to leave it on this movie mode, M mode. Then next to that is the on-off switch, 2 control dials here that are used to control various functions, and then this record button to start and stop recording. Moving to the back of the camera, there is this dial here to switch between manual focus and autofocus continuous, which will try to change focus to what it thinks should be focused on. Whereas with manual focus, you can set it on an object using that front lens ring, and it won't change automatically with the camera. Then there's a few other buttons here. This green one lets you play back your footage. This center one will enter the menu to change more settings. And then you can use this button here for ISO changing, white balance changing, as well as autofocus points. Moving to the bottom of the camera is where the battery and the SD card go that are required to shoot. When inserting the battery, look at the contacts here, making sure they're facing the front handle here, and slide it in. If it doesn't easily click in, you likely put it in the wrong way, so try switching it around to make sure it's put in correctly. With the SD card, make sure the little metal pins are facing towards the back of the camera where the screen is. Push it in, make sure it clicks in, and then close the battery door and slide it to lock it. Once the battery and stuff is, you should be able to flip it on, make sure the green light turns on, and then pull out the screen and position it in a way that works best for how you want to position and shoot the camera. So like if you're shooting from above, you can position the camera like here, so you can easily see it from the top, or same with the bottom, or from the sides, or you can fold it in like this. Let's take a look at settings on the camera and how to set it up for shooting. Taking a look at the screen on this camera, we can configure video settings and start recording. Before I start recording or framing my image, I'm going to go into the menu on this camera and format my card. Going under the wrench setting and then to the very bottom, there's a format and says delete all media from the memory card. This is going to reformat the card, set it up with the correct file system for this camera, and ensure the card works correctly. Make sure you don't have any files on your card you care about before formatting the card. Then I want to dive into the settings to do a very quick setup for auto exposure. Going into the camera mode at the very top, there's the exposure mode, so P, A, S, and M. If you want a full auto exposure, use the P mode. That will set all the exposure settings automatically to try to determine a correctly exposed image for you. The M mode can be used for manual exposure if you want to set that all yourself. The other thing you probably want to do on this camera, if you're using it from the checkout on the first time, is go under the gear and then reset all the settings on this camera. So that way, if someone before you set something weird, it's all going to be reset and you can start from fresh on this camera. Now that the camera is set to P mode, I'm going to want to go and set my frame rate and resolution settings. In the camera settings at the top, I'm going to go down to the 5th page, and then I On the first page of the camera settings, I can go under record quality and change it to 4K 24. Or if I want 1080, I can go to AVC HD and then do Full HD 24p. 24p is the typical quality used for recording movies or short film quality. And Full HD is smaller files, so 4K will give you more detail with larger files. For a simple auto recording, once I set up the frame rate resolution, formatted my media, I can go press the shutter halfway or press this on the touchscreen to exit the menu, and then press the red record button on the top to start rolling. I'm now recording a film right now, and everything, I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and press it again to stop recording. If I want to view this recording, I can press the playback button, tap the play icon, and see the recording I just made. For some more advanced functionality on this camera, I can go set this camera into its manual mode to set all the exposure settings manually on here. The front dial around the shutter button will change the aperture and make it so a larger number is a smaller aperture, or I can set it to a larger aperture. The rear control dial does shutter speed. This number here, typically at 24 FPS, I'm going to aim for 1/50th of a second. I then can press this top ISO dial to change the ISO on here in full stops from 200 to 6400. Now that I've set that up, I can view my exposure meter of how much light the camera thinks it has seeing it. I can see there. One other setting you might want to change on here is the autofocus modes. In order to have autofocus in this camera during video, you want to make sure this dial here is set to AFS or AFC. Doesn't matter for video modes. Go under menu and then go down to continuous AF and make sure that's set to on. Now when I start rolling, it will try to automatically change exposure to be correct. So if I put my hand in here, it will change focus to my hand. This camera is not the best at autofocus, but it will still try when doing that. If I want to do manual focus, I can switch this to manual, and then I can turn the focus dial on my lens to switch from close focus to like my hand to far focus on the background. In order to set white balance on this camera, I can press the WB button and switch it between auto white balance, which it's set to by default, to different modes like tungsten, shade, daylight, and custom settings, where I can essentially point it at a white surface or a gray card, say, set white balance based off this, and then it will keep that white balance for the rest of the scene. The last mode is using the Kelvin mode, where I can turn the dial, where I can press white balance select, and I can set it to a specific Kelvin value. So for example, I can set it to 5600K right now, and it will set the white balance for that. This camera also features some overlays that can give you information to make shooting easier. These are only shown in the viewfinder or on the screen, and not in the final recording. These include peaking, where you can touch this little button here to turn peaking on and off, and it'll show peaking here. Or you can go into the menu and turn peaking on and off under the 4th out of 9th on this wrench C setting. Once peaking's turned on, if I focus on something like this carabiner here, I can see these little blue outlines here. That means it's in focus. That can make it easier to tell on a small screen if an object's in focus correctly. Some of the other settings this has for helping figure out exposure includes a histogram. I can put a histogram here, hit set for it to stay there, and as I go adjust exposure on it, I can see this metering change. And this can make it easy to see if stuff's overexposed, for example, on this right side right here, or if it's underexposed by being on the left here. One more setting this has on the camera is it has zebras. Zebra patterns allow you to see if something's overexposed or set to a specific level, like what middle gray should be at, for example. This camera is set by default so that zebra 2 means it's overexposed or clipping and all the information's lost. So if I set it too bright, everything here turns into a zebra pattern, meaning that's set too bright or any clippings going on, and there won't be any information in where that is shown. When you're done recording with this camera, flip the power switch so that the camera turns off. Take the screen and face it inwards so that the screen's protected from any potential damage. And then Put the lens cap on the front of the camera so that way that the front element is safe and can't be damaged. Also, remember to remove the battery and SD card from the camera by clicking this little latch here so the battery can come out and pressing on the battery to remove it. Now this camera is ready to be put back into the box, and make sure to remember that it has 2 batteries, the camera itself, as well as the charger, charging cable, and the wall brick for the camera. It should all be listed on the side with a picture so you know that you have everything in the bag.